Hi guys, another sunny day. Hopefully, like some of you guys have been asking yourself that question yesterday. What would I do if Jesus walked into the room? Because one of the things that I was noticing, and one of the things that come up that was different, all really stemmed from a first online house group that we did on a Wednesday, and Matt showed us this series of the ruthless elimination of hurry, and he said that the symptoms if you live a hurried life, and he sent out a list of there was 10 different symptoms that show whether you have hurry sickness, that's a thing, and I ticked like pretty much all 10 of them things. So I knew something was up, and from when I read my Bible, when I read from being like a follower of Jesus says, take my yoke upon you, I'll give you rest. My yoke is easy to bear. And I don't feel like I'm bearing an easy yoke at this time. I don't feel like I'm bearing something that I can continue practicing, which means that I'm probably not practicing the way of Jesus, which is what he's talking about there. I'm probably trying to do this combination of following Jesus and sticking to what I know in the world, and finding somewhere in the middle that's like the best of both. And maybe you're in the same boat as me. I will stick that list up for you in the comments as well, so you can just check along and see whether you're on the same lines as where I was, or where you are. Hopefully you're not on the same lines as where I was. But this led me to looking at Jesus' yoke, his Sermon on the Mount, and as we talked about last week, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount was his teaching, his interpretation of the law. So what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks is just looking at Jesus' sermon and reading the book of Deuteronomy as well, the law, and just seeing what the collaboration is there and where Jesus is coming from, and trying to glean what his what's the word? His purpose is, his principles, that's the word, his principles that he gets out of the law and what we need to follow as followers of him. And interestingly enough, Deuteronomy chapter 1, what happens is God basically says to them, you spent enough time on this mountain now. It's about time I called you into the land of Canaan. You're moving on now. And the first thing what they do is they prepare. They prepare their ranks. They get settled from the inside. They get a structure. They get almost like a trellis to help them grow, because they don't know what's going to happen in the future. They just know that God's calling them out of that place, so they do what they can to get a structure in place. And I think for me and for us as followers of Jesus, the best thing that I could do was to put a structure in place, or begin to put a structure in place. And this, for followers of Jesus, it's fairly straightforward, because Jesus presents us with several practices, ones in which I'm coming across and looking into detail now, talking about like things like prayer, like fasting, like simplicity, like silence and solitude, like Sabbath, like going to church is a practice. And we all need all of these things, but it's where our lives line up with those things, and how those things draw us into a place where we're following Jesus. That they're not, these structures and these practices are not a means to an end. They're supposed to draw us into that abiding relationship with God the Father, and out of that we receive his rest, and we become people of the way, people of peace, people that transform this world. And so maybe like me, you need some structure in your life. So why don't we just think about that today? Are there structures that are in your life helping you practice the way of Jesus? or are they simply just pretty trellises that no vine is ever going to grow up?